Have you heard of Bambie Thug? This is a artist from Ireland who claims to be a non-binary witch, and she has won this music contest in Ireland, and she's advancing now for a music contest called Eurovision in Europe. And she has put out her mission statement, which is right here. I'm going to read it to you. She says, "My goal in life is to make everyone leave all the other religions and join witchcraft." Quote, Bambie Thug. Now, I can't show any of the footage of this because it is inappropriate. I'm going to read some of her bio. It involves witchcraft, drug use, pornography. And we're going to talk today about Catholic identity, Catholic nation status, what happened to Ireland. I am genetically half Irish. And how do we get so lost? How do we get so confused? Before I break down her bio and all that, here's just kind of a look of what she represents. So yeah, this is odd. All right, this is like Marilyn Manson mixed with the LMNOP, all that, right? So I'm gonna go ahead and take that off. This is like a modest picture, all right? Some of the stuff you just can't even see. It's horrible. And she has said her goal is to make everyone leave all the other religions and join witchcraft. And before I begin today, I just want to say, do you, as a Christian, do you have it as your goal to lead all people to Jesus Christ? Or is that an afterthought? She believes in witchcraft so much, she literally makes it part of her performances, her identity, her mission statement to lead all people, 8 billion people, to witchcraft. Do we have the same commitment to leading people to Jesus Christ? My name is Dr. Taylor Marshall. Welcome to the Dr. Taylor Marshall podcast. Please like the video. As you can see, I'm not home. I'm in a hotel room. I'm in West Virginia. West Virginia. John Denver. You know, John Denver is from my hometown, Fort Worth, Texas, and his name wasn't John Denver. So I'll be on the Timcast tonight. It's a popular podcast. So if you like the Timcast, you can tune in on YouTube. The Tim Pool podcast in real life. That'll be tonight, I think at 8 Eastern. That'll be tonight. All right, let's get back and talk about this unusual witch. Her name is Bambie Thug. She's non-binary, and let's get into her bio. All right, again, these pictures. Here, I found another one. Let's see if I can do this. All right. Here's another picture of Bambie Thug. Okay. Lots of makeup, lots of shock value. You know, this is sort of Marilyn Manson girl version. Right? 1970s, you had Kiss. I guess in the 1980s, you had things like Twisted Sister. Some of the black metal started coming on the scene. And then in the 90s, you had stuff like Marilyn Manson, Nine Inch Nails. I don't know, when did Slipknot, all that stuff happen. This is insane. What is it? Insane Clown Posse levels of cringe. All right, this is just be really weird. This is just a person. I have zero talent in the world, musical talent. So I'm going to wear makeup, costumes, cringe fest, and then everyone's going to talk about me, and I'm going to talk all about Satanism and all that. So who is this Bambie Thug? Well, I'm going to rely here on the most authoritative, authentic source on the internet, Wikipedia. Her name is Bambi Ray Robinson, and her music, she says, is inspired by breakups, witchcraft, and drug addiction. She identifies her genre of music as Ouija Pop. You know, like the Ouija board, which is satanic. Don't do the Ouija board, you'll get possessed. It's not good. Go watch my video with Dr. Dan Schneider on Ouija board. Go watch my video with Father Chad Rippiger on Ouija board. You will get possessed using Ouija boards. They are a portal to darkness and the demonic. And in 2024, she won the Eurosong 2024 with a song called Doomsday Blue. It's satanic. I read the lyrics. It's not good. And now she's representing the whole nation of Ireland for Eurovision Song Contest 2024. Her father is he a Swede? Saw that in here somewhere. Yeah, father's a Swede. Mother is Irish. I also have Swedish blood and Irish blood. Maybe Bambie Thug and I are related. Wouldn't that be something? Her songs are related to occultish, dark things, like they're in Greek, the Watchers in First Enoch that fall and copulate with women. Those are the egregori, and she has a song called Egregori. It was her first single of 2023. And she says that her music is inspired by copious drugs. She said she's written songs while under the influence of drugs that she doesn't remember. She says that she goes into trances. She casts spells on herself, on other people. And let's see here. Oh, this is not good here. This is not good. Robinson was first credited in music in 2020 as a featured artist on the Fike and Fabish song Mean, which was released on June 26, 2020. Robinson released their debut single Birthday on March 5, 2021. The song, which was written while Robinson was addicted to drugs, and its uncensored music video being released on pornography sites, was described as stoic but smashed stream of consciousness, with their coaxing voice and documenting the events around them like a debaucherous diary. They float through brawls, consume copious drugs, and wait impatiently for their tardy dealer. So it's about drugs, it's about sex, it's about witchcraft, it's about magic. And there's some interesting things here about her style towards the end. I said already that she calls her music Ouija Pop, and she claimed that they could do everything creatively, stating their belief that the heavy metal music commonly had expanded to include more genres and more accepting of the LBGLMNOP community. However, they also state that the heavy metal community was under attack, with Robinson considering themselves a rebel and that they're the new generation of things. She said she wants to be a good role model with music, stating belief that many within the industry glamorize drug addiction. She's inspired by Dolly Parton, Britney Spears, Nina Simone, Paul Simon, Joni Mitchell, and Led Zeppelin. She identifies herself as non-binary and said, I like being part of the cool, queer rising scene. I also didn't have that growing up, so it's important to have people you can relate to and have music that speaks to you and allows you more freedom to be yourself. She practices neo-pagan witchcraft, particularly sigil and manifestation magic. She says she has also done blood magic, stating that it is an offering of your own blood unto a spout, and it's also really good for your skin. So what she's saying here is she practices blood magic. I don't know what it means about the spout, but she also thinks that it helps her skin. I don't know if any of y'all are interested in using sacrificial blood as a exfoliator. I think that would be really sinful and evil. She says that witchcraft has a major influence on her music, Numerous spells and hexes are included in various songs, with Robinson making their own sigil and their own official logo. She is pro-Palestine. And I also read on another site, it's not here, that she uses spells, incantations, and they go into trances and speak backwards and speak in tongues and put that into the music. So I think it's safe to say at this point that we're dealing here with straight up Satanism. It's Satanism blended with music, pornography, and political action, and her non-binary experience in the world. Why even talk about this? Well, she's representing Ireland, and Ireland was, like her older sister France, was such an authentic, beautiful, blossoming Catholic culture for so many centuries. And now Ireland has become pagan, invaded, hostile to Catholicism, hostile to family, to children, to Irish identity, all these things. It's being ripped and destroyed. And we have to ask ourselves the question, how and why? As you know, I'm a philosopher. The most important questions in life are how and why. Because they get down to the causality of human life, the reasons, the causes of things. By the way, uneducated people and people with a low IQ are primarily concerned with the question of who, what. Higher IQ people are concerned with the question how, why. For example, who, what questions and discussions are what you see on TMZ, what you see in People magazine. Now, I realize we kind of started this whole thing off with a People magazine. We're looking at this Irish witch named Bambie Thug, who and what. I just gave you the who and what. Now we're going to talk about the philosophical, how and why. And I will be going, I'm live right now, I'll do some Q&A, so prep for the Q&A. How and why? How did Ireland lose its Catholic way? And why did Ireland lose its Catholic way? And I think this question is related to any culture that was Catholic and lost its how and its way. For example, Egypt has Coptic Christians in there who have suffered, been persecuted under the hands of Islam since the 600s. Before that, Egypt was a thriving Christian community. How and why did it become Muslim? Yes, it had to do with violence, but it also had to do with many other factors. How did England, which was also a thoroughly Catholic nation, when Henry VIII and Archbishop Cranmer began to rewrite the liturgy and rewrite the theology, how and why did that culture choose to be non-Catholic? I know, I've read the book Stripping of the Altars. I understand that there was a grassroots movement of people who hated Protestantism, who wanted to be Catholic. But all the bishops, except for John Fisher, and all the laity begrudgingly went along, and they lost their Catholic identity. France, the 1700s, leading up to the French Revolution, lost their Catholic identity. And in a way, it was kind of brought back under Napoleon, but never how it was before the French Revolution, before the killing of the kings and the guillotining of the nuns in Paris. What is the cause? How and why? A big part of it. Now, I know this is not everyone in America is going to agree with me, because in America, we're all rah democracy, right? But if you read the Old Testament, you read about the people of Israel and the role of the kings and the role of the priest over the people of Israel. You see that grace flows downhill, and so does idolatry, wickedness, sin, and sexual immorality. So you can have a generally good group of people, but if you place over them kings, politics, priests, religion, church, if you place over them wicked kings and wicked priests, that degeneracy will flow downhill to the people. This is not peculiar to the Old Testament. We see this in Plato's Republic. We see this in Aristotle and his ethics. We see this in families, where a father loses his way and it destroys not only his children, but his grandchildren, and creates wounds that create scars and infections in the family. And so Ireland, which had been persecuted under the English for their Catholic identity, in reality, and been enslaved. Let's not forget that. Their identity, their ability to survive the harshest measures politically and religiously was Catholic. It was based on the holy sacrifice of the Mass. It was based on the Rosary, Marian devotions, large families. And while the Irish were under the thumb of the English and could not practice their faith openly with processions and pilgrimages and public solemn high masses and public festivals like you might see in Italy or France or Spain, they still not just kept the ember burning, but they had a bonfire burning of faith. What happened? And it's not like it was lit by a steady stream of politicians leading them in the right direction. Well, my opinion, again, I'm just a dad on a webcam. My opinion for the how and the why is that the bedrock of Irish Catholicism was taken away. And the bedrock of Irish Catholicism, drumroll, was the traditional Latin Mass. The Irish Catholics had a very much privatized faith. This comes into American Catholicism because we have so many Irish American Catholicism in our founding and with the bishops. But remember, Irish Catholicism was restricted to an island, and it was under English rule. There was not much of a outward or civil expression for many centuries. And the focus was the Mass, the traditional Mass. And that's what made you different from a Protestant, from the Orange, from the English. You believed in the Trinity, so did they. They believed in Jesus, so did they. They believed in infant baptism, so did they. But the Mass, the traditional Mass, that made you an Irish Catholic. They took that away. And I believe that we lost a generation. We lost the infused power of catechesis, transcendence. I just went to the traditional Latin Mass today. Happy Ascension Thursday, by the way. Jesus ascended to the Father on the 40th day after his resurrection, 40 days after Easter, and 40 days after Easter is always on a Thursday. So today is Ascension Thursday. I know in the modern Novus Ordo Church they want to transfer it to Sunday, but no. In the East and in the West, we celebrate it on a Thursday. So I was able to go to the traditional Latin Mass, and it's powerful. It's different. It's a different experience than Novus Ordo. Even if you have the reverent unicorn version of the Novus Ordo, it is different. And I think everyone is in agreement that the Novus Ordo, whether you love it or hate it, it is closer to an Anglican communion service. It moves that direction. How do I know that? I used to be an Anglican priest, clergyman before I was a Catholic. Trust me, I know. It moves in that direction. So suddenly, beginning in 1970, you go to the Irish and you say, hey, you're not going to have your traditional Mass, which has fed you for centuries. Instead, here's the new liturgy. And the Irishman sees it and says, this is like Anglicanism, Church of England. We've been martyred and persecuted and starved over this. And what made us distinct as Irish was the Latin Mass. And now we have something that feels more like what our Protestant English persons enjoy in the Church of England. I think that was the beginning of losing Catholic identity, because you have to have Catholic identity. You can't be Catholic and be ashamed or afraid of your Catholic identity. Like the guy who was driving me to Mass today, he was asking me, so you're going to church? Thursday? What's going on? I was like, yeah, I'm a Catholic. I'm a Catholic, and today is the feast of the Ascension of Jesus Christ. And he says, oh, I like Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ is important. And I said, well, he ascended to the Father after he rose again 40 days later, and today commemorates that day. He was interested. And I said, I'm going to the Mass, the Catholic Mass, for a Catholic feast day. You see, this has to be our identity. We have to talk about it. We need to hand out medals. We need to give rosaries to people. We need to invite them to Mass. Do you agree with me? Do a thumbs up right now on this show. All right, I'm going to jump into your comments and your questions. Particularly interested if there's anyone in Ireland. Can they give us any more info about Bambie Thug? And let's get into it. So here's David Wilson. He says, Father Chicada said that the things taken out were the same as the Church of England took out. By and large, yes. Not 100%. I would, of course, say the Novus Ordo is more Catholic than the Church of England communion service, of course. But as I said, it moves in that direction. If you read the traditional Latin Mass and then you read the Anglican Church of England Book of Common Prayer communion service, and then you read the Novus Ordo, you realize that it's positioned in between those two. Anybody who's honest realizes that. Here we go. Dog Max says, totally agree. Catholics are raising up here in Ireland, but it feels like people really need to get off the fence and make the choice. Things are getting so weird. People feel like they are God. Yeah. That's what witchcraft is, you know. Witchcraft is the lie of Satan that you too shall be gods. It's the deification of self. And this is why, even if they are a non-theistic Satanist, they like Satan as a mascot, because Satan asserted himself and said, I'll be my own God. And then he went to Adam and Eve and says, you be your own God. You know, it is the Oprah Winfrey message, that you are your own God. Or in kind of the Gnostic understanding, you are a droplet of God. You are a spark of God. If you ever hear that, you're hearing Gnostic heresy. Run away. If you're in church and you hear that, leave the church, because you're being exposed and your children are being exposed to heresy. JessMao89, I'm a convert in progress, went to Latin Mass today, was beautiful. Blessed be God. Blessed be his holy name. Jane Schreiner says, it's both scary and sad to hear about people like this. You know where they are headed for eternity if something drastic doesn't happen. Yeah, we need to pray for these witches, witchcraft. It is definitely a full-on rebellion against Jesus Christ. And, you know, a lot of these people, They've been exposed to drugs. They've been exposed to broken homes, physical abuse, sexual abuse, the sort of erotic, luxurious, debased sexual culture. And all of those things leave hurts, they leave bruises, they leave scars. The only one who can heal the bruises and the scars and the hurts and the pains and the broken bones is Jesus Christ. So if a person doesn't have Jesus Christ, and we need to lead everyone to Jesus Christ, she's trying to lead everyone to witchcraft. We need to lead everyone to Jesus Christ. If you don't have Jesus Christ, you are going to seek it out through this kind of behavior. And we're actually seeing more and more of that in the younger culture. I was talking to a guy and he said, where do you see things going spiritually in the world? And I said, well, I think we're going to see more and more people either going to traditional Catholicism or Islam. I think Protestantism within 20 years will be dead. It'll be gone. You'll see traditional Catholicism and Islam. And then you're also going to see this sort of witchcraft right here. The problem with this is it's not able to sustain itself. The idea, it's kind of medieval, of the witch or witches in the woods by themselves making stews of newts and all these things, mushrooms. These are old crones. Crone's a cool word. Crone is like an old witchy woman. Crone. These crones, they can't reproduce. They're crones. So they have to seduce and get the children of other people. And that's how this propagates. Muslims have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 kids, and then Ali gets a second wife. And he has another 7, 8, 9, 10. Then if he's rich, he gets a third wife. 11, 12, 13, 14. Traditional Catholics like me, my wife and I, we have 8 children. I got a buddy, Greg, he's got 12 children. So we procreate. We have kids. This is why the world will turn traditional Catholic and Islamic over the next few years. The problem with this, although it's popular, is this culture is very much given over to abortion. They don't have children. They're like, ew, you're having a kid? Ugh. Is that your kid? This is this culture, right? Shrooms, raves, DJ culture, drug culture, contraception. Like, this culture is not thriving. There's no genetic impetus. So this is, although it's popular and people are fascinated by it, this has never been a thing since the first advent of our Lord Jesus Christ. It doesn't propagate itself, right? It's a cancer, it can grow, right? But it's not its own being. So I don't think it's much of a threat. I think it's an enticement for Christians who want to feel self-empowered, or for Christians who feel betrayed, isolated, pushed away from Christianity. This is definitely an attractive thing for them. But ultimately, here we go. Onyx says, the culture will die out due to its inherent nihilism. Exactly. So there's no fuel. There's nothing pulling it along. Like it's a train, but it has no engine pulling it. So it has to feed like a vampire off other thriving cultures, thriving organisms. So witchcraft and Satanism needs Christianity, in particular, needs Catholicism to have any existence. Because when Satanists want to have liturgy and worship their demon, they have a black mass, not a black praise and worship, not a black Protestant service. They have a black mass. And even Protestantism itself is, in a sense, living off of Catholicism, because Protestantism is a protest of what? The Catholic Church, right? So this is why there is an atrophy built in to these aberrant, degenerate systems. Alessandro says, as soon as her and others will see some shadows or a pencil slipping out of the table, they are going to run to the first Catholic church they can find for an exorcist. Yeah, this is, talking to exorcists, especially Father Chad Ripperger. When you give yourself over to Satan, there's all these initial benefits. But then he pulls out the rug from underneath you. He starts to call in his dues. And that's when things get really, really bad. Just like drugs. You do some cocaine or some heroin. First 3 to a dozen times, amazing. But after 2 or 3 years, you're a wreck. You're waking up on some stranger's house or couch in a trap house or something, You're like, what is going on here? What am I even doing? That's how Satan works. All right. Bernadette, Caroline, God help us in Ireland. We need plenty of prayers. Amen. Everybody pray for the Irish. Pray for all of us. What we need, okay, let's go back to the hows and the whys. Okay, we talked about the how this happened, right? Why did it happen? Another problem besides losing our Catholic identity, which has to do with losing the Catholic Mass, the traditional Mass, traditional sacraments, is we have lost the identity of what a priest, bishop, and pope is. When Paul VI took off the papal tiara and put it on the altar at St. Peter's and never wore it again, that was the beginning of a transformation of what is a pope. All the way up into the 80s and 90s when John Paul II was going to every nation in the world on airplanes, getting off, kissing the ground, doing World Youth Days, doing mega events, arenas. A lot of people were inspired by that. People found vocations. People came back to the church. But for 2,000 years, is that really the vocation of the Pope? And did it stretch the identity of the Pope so that we don't really, even today in 2024, if you're under 40 years old, do you even know what a Pope is or should be? That's part of the why. And then we have priests who, they wear polo shirts and New Balance shoes and jeans, and, they go by their first name, and they see the liturgy as sort of their personal engagement, conversation with the lay people. They come out and it's not Dominus Vobiscum. It's good morning, everyone. How's everybody doing today? Hey, Carla. How are you? Rita? And they walk in on the procession in some of these Novus Ordo places. Instead of walking in as if they are walking to Calvary where Jesus is hanging on the cross, which is the Mass, they're walking down like they're entering Lollapalooza. Like, hey, what's up? And shaking people's hands. Hey, welcome to the Sunday Mass. 11 a.m. edition. Hey, Bobby, how you doing? How's that golf game? All right, I'll catch you next week. Bishops, even in the Eastern tradition, they allow there to be married priests. Married men are able to be ordained priests, but not the bishops. In the Eastern tradition, which is ancient, goes back to the apostles, the bishops are supposed to be monastic. They wear black robes. They have beards. The bishops are monastic. That should be the case in the Western tradition as well, but now our bishops, they wear business suits, black suits with collars. But they wear black suits. They have Their pectoral cross, when they wear a cassock, the pectoral cross hangs down. A priest can't wear a pectoral cross. Only a bishop can wear a pectoral cross. And it hangs right here, right? Well, now they wear the business suit, and then they have the cross tucked here into the pocket. You don't even see it. They look like CEOs. And let's be honest, in many dioceses, the bishops see themselves as administrative CEOs. They're meeting with lawyers. They're meeting with insurance. And they're looking at how we can reduce the most amount of damage and what pensions look like and portfolios and real estate holdings, instead of being a spiritual father, instead of being a monk, someone who is on the unitive way to God, right? They're contemplatives. They have abandoned this world. Everything for them is Jesus Christ and his cross. And we are all attracted to that, and we all want that. And so we see him as a pioneer on the trail towards Jesus. But that's not what we see. And then with the popes and the cardinals, it's so much more about World Youth Days and writing about political topics, globalism, vaccines, being green, recycling. Some of these things are important, but when Jesus Christ, our Lord and Savior, the eternal Logos, second person Trinity, instituted the church, and he instituted Peter as the first pope. Whatever you bind on earth is bound in heaven. He gave him the keys to the kingdom. The kingdom is the kingdom of heaven, not the kingdom of the European Union, not the kingdom of the United States of America, and certainly not the kingdom of the United Nations. It's the kingdom of heaven, the kingdom of God. The vocation, the job, and the identity of a pope, I think if you're under age 40, maybe even under age 50, maybe even under age 60, I think we don't even know what a pope is. I think, especially if you were catechized in the 1980s under John Paul II, I think that people were wrongly taught. The impression was the Pope is the mascot of Catholicism. The Pope is the frontward face. He's like the guy on the commercial. He represents the brand. Is that what is instituted in Matthew 16? I think, again, we're getting back into the philosophical questions of how and why. Not who and what, but how and why. How does a pope be pope? And somehow with all the political activism, and yes, it was great to see John Paul II saying, hey, let's end communism, solidarity, the whole thing. Great, right? But did that teach the lay people and the priests and the nuns and everybody that being pope is being a mascot for political action? And is that part of the, like when historians, if Jesus doesn't return, when historians look back on Catholicism in the late 1900s, early 2000s, I suspect that the hows and the whys, the important questions, that this is the kind of discussions that will be had. Just like when we talk about medieval popes, or we talk about Boniface VIII and the struggles that were going on there, and we talk about how feudalism or other social things, or the advent and the coming in of Islam in the 8th century and that threat, how that also begins to affect how we understand things. But I think in our case, with the advent of television and airplanes and globalism and all that happening in the 1960s, throw on a Vatican II on there, throw on new liturgies, new sacraments, and then put the popes on airplanes, traveling all over, doing all this activity. I think that stretches what the definition or the identity of Pope. Do you agree with me or do you disagree with me? Leave a comment. All right, we got a super chat here. This is from Gulf Coast FL99. Off topic, please. How is Bishop Geir Genswein, trad infiltrator? Met him once, and I've discussed it before, especially around the death of Pope Benedict XVI. I'm concerned because, and maybe he'll see this, so I want to be respectful, but I believe that Archbishop Geir Genswein, he played both sides. You know, half the day he was with Benedict XVI, the other half of the day he was with Francis, and he was going back and forth. He was the in-between guy. And for all those years, I think the perception of the public was that he was two-faced, that ultimately his loyalty was with Benedict, but he also played the game with Francis. Two-faced. You know, like in Batman, there's that guy named Two-Face. Who played Batman in the old 90s? Oh, it was Tommy Lee Jones. Tommy Lee Jones was the Two-Face. He had a coin that he would flip. It's kind of like No Country for Old Men, where you got the murderer guy, Anton, is that his name? And he flips the coin, and if it's, I can't remember if it's heads or tails, but then he's going to hit you in the head with a cattle prod, pneumatic cattle prod, and it's going to kill you. So I think Genswein compromised. I think he kept a foot on both sides of the bridge, right? And when that bridge began to open up, he fell down. So he's definitely persona non grata with Pope Francis. That's a fact. So thank you for that super chat. Hope that was helpful. Again, it's just my opinion. It's not anything official. Just my observations. Kenk Kasparian, please support Baby Lasagna from Croatia. Jay is devout Catholic. All right. You know, I love Croatians. By the way, a new book of mine just came out in Croatian translation. It's my second book, 10th Region of a second novel. It's the sequel to my book on St. George, Sword and Serpent. It just came out in Croatian. They sent me the hardback. It's gorgeous. I wish I had a copy here. But yeah, the Croatians seem to like my books. I think 4 or 5 of my books are already translated into Croatian. And everyone I've met from Croatia is awesome. So props to the Croatians. And I'm assuming that this person is in Eurovision. And if so, and they're Catholic, may they win. Tony clarifies, yes, Kenk Baby Lasagna said his role models are Padre Pio and St. Paul. Based alert. Dr. Jean says, Happy Ascension Thursday. We celebrate the day on Thursday here in CT. What country is CT? I don't know. Is it Croatia? I'll look it up. Country abbreviation, CT. Not coming up. Central African Republic? No, that ain't right. That's what it says. Huh. Maybe I have it wrong. Mea maxima culpa. Let's see if she lets me know. I bet. Oh, Connecticut. Connecticut. All right. We're so international here that I was thinking nation CT. I knew it wasn't Canada, but I'm glad in Connecticut they have Ascension Thursday. CT Connecticut. Yes, of course. I was thinking Croatia. Dr. Marshall, why don't bishops speak out against witchcraft? They're afraid. Most bishops operate on fear, primarily fear about lawyers and money. And then there's sort of a hierarchy beneath that. I think a lot of bishops know that Catholicism is descending. Catholicism is not ascending. And so the best way to deal with this is to keep your head down, be quiet, and as the culture goes up into paganism and atheism and secularism, if we just hide our heads in the sand, maybe they'll just leave us alone and we won't get sued. And the lawyers won't send us cease and desist letters, and we won't have more bills to pay. This looks Croatian. I'm sure it's based. Hopefully it is. Thank you, Josip. Here we go. David Wilson. YouTube is full of witches, Wiccans, and neo-pagans. It's worrying. Yes. It's like I said, witchcraft doesn't have a high birth rate. They're not procreators. Witchcraft is associated with potions, contraceptions, abortions, low birth rate. Female empowerment is how this is translated. So, yeah, it's only attractive really to people who feel estranged from Christianity, right? It's the ultimate rebellion. You know, you wear black and you have an upside down cross and you break a crucifix and you spit on our blessed immaculate mother, God forbid. Right? It's sort of this teenage rebellious angst. It's kind of like Nietzsche, right? I have a PhD in philosophy. I've taught philosophy on the high school and college level. And I can tell you this, the only people in the world who read Nietzsche seriously and are like, Nietzsche's so based, like Nietzsche, and quote Nietzsche and wear Nietzsche t-shirts and all that, are kind of like high testosterone dorks who are 17 to 23 max, maybe 17 to 20. It's this idea of like will to power and like I'm the Ubermensch, you know, and I'm superior. You know, it's kind of like the dorks who post all the like racist memes on Twitter from anonymous accounts. It has this sort of window of, you know, it's not the guys who are like emaciated vegan gamers. It's the kind of the more post jocks who want to be intellectuals. They're like Nietzsche, Nietzsche, Nietzsche. Well, that's kind of how witchcraft is, right? Sort of this post-Christian rebellion, flamboyant, you know, look how cool we are. Look how sexually liberated we are. Look at all the drugs we do. Look at the raves we smoke weed and we have mind journeys and some funny examples come to mind. Perhaps I shouldn't share them because this is a family show. Well, today's show is not a family show. Dr. Marshall, what do you think about the many Muslim mayors in England? Exactly. This is why I'm saying the future is not paganism. Paganism has no propulsion. The future is traditional Catholicism and Islam, right? And then I think what is attacking traditional Catholicism, that attack will, yes, eventually, I think, sort of line up with maybe against Islam, but I think in the more short term, it's more of an attack of sort of secularism, banking, Talmudic influences, and sort of the pornographic rock rap culture, which is trying to seduce Christians like that. Whatever that thing is, I think that right now is hitting and it's the most firepower against Christians right now. But there will be an Islamic Christian showdown in the future. And they're kind of putting all their chess pieces on the board and in the right places. Loving seeing all the Croatians in the chat. I mean, if everyone here's Croatian, I'm happy. Oh yeah, here we go. Taylor Swift playing the witch at stage and being considered the perfect role model. Exactly. But remember, the witch, this is sort of like the attractive, cool, young witch, you know? Eventually, the witch becomes the crone. Let me get the crone for you. Here we go. Eventually, you know, if Taylor Swift wants to be the witch, you know, she's young now, but eventually it always goes to this. Here it is. Sorry, it took me a little bit to grab it. Always goes to this right here. Right? Eat this apple, my pretty. Right? This is the end game. Right? For the traditional Catholic woman, it is, you know, being a Mother Angelica, right? The revered Mother Superior, the ascetic nun, or often it is the revered grandmother, surrounded by her 48 grandchildren, blessing and loving all the grandchildren, guiding her daughters and her sons to the next generation of cultural excellence, if done properly. But I mean, here's this becomes this. It's like that meme. Tell me the difference between these two pictures. It's like, it's the same picture. It's just age changes it. Let me check and make sure I didn't miss any super chats. Okay, we're good. Yeah, here we go. Mr. B, Madonna pop star is a haggard old witch these days, sadly. Hopefully she repents. I mean, yeah, you can be this and get tons of cosmetic surgeries like Madonna, and you can try to be this, but eventually you're this. You are a jealous old crone, and you want to domineer over other women. That's what this is right here. Is this Snow White? I think it's Snow White. Snow White is the beautiful, wholesome young lady who is on her way to marriage with the prince. And she has to come and mess it all up. She is the Karen crone. Interceptus says booming broom business in Ireland. Yeah. Taylor Swift is an exact replica of Zena LaVey, the daughter of Anton LaVey. It's creepy. I've seen those pictures. By the way, Ina, be careful. You wrote Taylor is an exact replica of Zena LaVey. Hold up. People think you're talking about me. You got to say Taylor Swift. There's two Taylors. Taylor Marshall, Taylor Swift. So be careful. I don't want people thinking that I look like the daughter of Anton LaVey. Rose says, Rebuke all those satanic people. Jesus help us. Okay, but how about this? Evangelize. These people, anyone who's using a lot of drugs is an unhappy person. No one's like, man, this is such a beautiful garden and this food tastes good and my marriage is awesome and work is great. Let's shoot some heroin. No one ever does that, right? Happy people aren't looking for narcotics for escapism. People looking for escapism are unhappy people. Those are the people who gravitate towards the narcotics. Those are the people who wake up in the trap house. So we need to somehow show them the love of Jesus Christ. And we've seen, it's kind of the OnlyFans scene. We're starting to see the OnlyFans girls being like, yeah, this isn't that cool. Like, being a porn star is not cool. And eventually, your porn star career goes this way. And drugs and money and all this stuff doesn't make you happy. It's like what Russell Brand has been saying lately. He's done a lot of things that aren't good or wholesome, and he says, I was always hoping it would achieve something for me, and it never did, and that was a disappointment. But now he's talking about Jesus. He's talking about God. He's talking about baptism. He's talking about love. I know he's not Catholic. Praying for him. But again, hedonism leads you only so far, right? So this girl right here, right, she's going to follow this hedonistic path, and she hopefully won't, but she'll end up OD'd, something horrible, something sad, or she'll just become the old crone, or finally she'll submit to the grace of God and say, okay, this life is horrible. I need Jesus. And again, I remind you here on the Dr. Taylor Marshall podcast, you should be giving away miraculous medals. You should invite people to church. You should, if someone says they have a problem, say, can I pray for you? And just right then, pray for them. You should be talking about Catholicism. You should be talking about the Eucharist. You should be getting people to know Jesus every week. That's your homework every week. Don't paint all the Irish as evil pagans. We were not given a choice. Oh, I never said that. I never said that. David Wilson, true, it never hits the mark. Jesus really is the answer. Yes. Yeah. Oh, I like this quote right here from Marlena Fina. This is what happens when you give up your weapons. 100%. So with that, pray the rosary every day. The rosary is the weapon. If you don't pray the rosary every day, you're not on the team. Pray the rosary every single day. Today's the Feast of the Ascension. Pray the rosary. I think I'm 11 decades in. I got 4 more to go. Pray that you don't have to do it all at the same time. You can break it up. Pray the rosary every day. You're not on the team. Find a traditional Latin Mass. Share the gospel with everyone you know, from the crone, the witch, the Mohammedan, the atheist. Share the gospel with everyone. And remember, our Lord Jesus Christ says you're the light of the world and the salt of the earth. So go out there and be salty. I'll be on Timcast tonight. Check it out, 8 p.m. Eastern, I believe is the time. Thanks to all the Patreon patrons who support this channel. And if you want to take online courses with me, go to nsti.com, New St. Thomas Institute. God bless and Godspeed.